Hello. Going to discuss quickly how to export SVGs from Illustrator. SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphic, vector being the key word. You do not export photographs and raster images that you developed in Photoshop as an SVG, only vectorized graphics created with software like Illustrator or another vector editor. Notice that I have my assets set up in individual artboards. This will let the export system know what elements you want exported out individually. Often I'll create my work here in the general artboard and then make individual artboards where I copy and paste those assets to individual artboards so they can be exported out. As you can see, I got a dark version, I've got a light version, I've got a horizontal version, I've got a version without any of the other riffraff here. Pretty simple process. In Illustrator, you say File, Export, Export for Screens. Have this little tab set up here at the top, and you select Artboards, and so now we can tell Illustrator which artboards we want exported out. It uses the artboards names to name the files, which you can change here if you'd like. All the file formats that can be saved out in the system are here. The default's PNG, so be mindful of that. You want it to set to SVG so they come out as vectors. Note that you can export them out in different formats, so you can say, okay, I want this as an SVG. I also want this 3 times bigger as a PNG. Pretty convenient feature there. In this case, we just want the one format. If you ever have to make adjustments to the general settings here, you utilize this little cog. So we click that, and now we have access to all the settings for the different formats that this system can export out. This little guy here is clicked by default, create subfolders. What that does is it creates a folder called SVG and puts all the exports in that folder. This is handy if you've got multiple formats. Problem is, usually I recommend turning that off, because usually we select the folder that we want in. We will select that SVG folder in the future for future exports, and then it's going to put an additional folder inside there called SVG and creates this confusing nesting situation. So I recommend clicking that off. You select which items you want exported out in the formats that you have selected. Pretty simple. You just say export artboard, and they come out here. So if you look, I've got those 2 SVGs exported out, no problem. So now I am in Figma. Getting them into Figma is pretty easy. With the toolbar, you select Image Video option. It's nested with all the shapes. You select that, and then you select the graphic that you want brought in and say Open. It gives you a little element to select where you want that, and boom. The coolest part is now this is fully editable. You can change the color, you can change the shape. These are vectors, so all the benefits of vectors: infinite scalability, infinite editability. It's going to look sharp in any scale. So always bring in your vectors into other software as a vector. The universal file format for that is SVG. Rasterized graphics, photos, other elements you might have created with Photoshop need to be brought in as a JPEG or a PNG. But vectors, anything you've created vector must be brought in as a vector for the benefits I just described. FYI, you can also drag and drop these from your Finder window right into Figma. It'll bring them in the correct format. All right, happy clicking.